Adam, you are Director of West Coast Development for Original Programming for Yahoo. Now, you are probably doing what is the most mysterious job in this whole panel here. And if you listen to Jeff or some people, there's really no money at the end or very little right now. What is your perspective on somebody who says, I want to make product for the web?
Sure, so I'll try to untangle the mystery a little bit for everybody. It's a big question. All right, well, first off, there's opportunity. The business is very much in its early stages. 2012 was the first year that original programming for digital platforms started happening in a very relevant way. It's the first time that we started seeing major digital platforms that have massive audience operating like networks and like studios, financing programming and distributing programming. In some cases, developing in-house and producing in-house and operating a fully vertically integrated system. So it's a rapidly changing, environment right now. But the opportunity is growing in a really exciting way. I mean, just over last year, there's plenty of examples of very profitable projects coming from top A-list talent. Just at Yahoo, in the past year, we've done projects with Tom Hanks. We did a project with Ben Stiller. We did a project with Anthony Zuiker, the creator of CSI. These are profitable projects. The show that we did with Ben Stiller, it's a program called Burning Love. This was a show that was formatted in a way that I know, as Jeff mentioned, is a challenging thing to accomplish. This is a show that accomplished it. A show that was formatted in a way that worked for digital platforms as well as traditional platforms. It's a show that we formatted as short-form episodes on Yahoo, because that's what the behavior is for the most part on Yahoo right now. It's short-form consumption, which is, let's call it, up to 10-minute episodes. So the show was formatted as short forms on Yahoo. However, it also works as a feature film. It also works as a number of TV half hours. All in all, we created 3 seasons of the show Burning Love, which ultimately was just about 45 short-form episodes on Yahoo, 3 feature films, and 26 TV half hours. That's been incredibly successful. On Yahoo, season 1, the show did 12 million viewers, which is great when you compare that to cable standards. The show was incredibly profitable on Yahoo. Season 1 is now available to view on E! Network. We sold the TV window for that. And seasons 2 and 3 just launched on Yahoo with a long ancillary business that we anticipate to follow for both of those. And we have a bunch more programs in the pipeline that we look to emulate that same model with. Beyond Yahoo, there's a bunch of other platforms that are operating in the same way. You've got Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, AOL, Crackle. All of these platforms are really beginning to operate as traditional TV networks, distributors, or film studios, if you want to liken it to that. I think that the best way to think about the business is like the early days of the cable model. I think that you can draw some really clear comparisons between the digital space and the cable space, where what they both have in common is that in the very earliest days of both businesses, they were both viewed as utilities. Cable was just a great way to get clear reception that was better than the rabbit ears on your TV, and the internet it beat going to the library to access information. What then followed was a UGC phase, where on cable television we saw a huge influx of local access programming that was for the most part the UGC of its time. Digitally, we saw the same thing as with YouTube, and before that, eBaum's World, and all these other platforms that were platforms in the very traditional sense, where they allowed users to upload their own user-generated content. What then followed in both cable and digital was a whole licensing period, which we saw over the past couple of years with Netflix and Hulu essentially, becoming what was the HBO, Showtime, and Cinemax of their early days. And what just began happening over the past year in digital was the whole original programming movement, which led to The Sopranos and The Wire and Weeds and Mad Men. So we're looking at the same path, the same trajectory. I think that what's happening in the digital space is that it's happening in a much quicker way. We're looking at things change in a much more rapid pace. I mean, I just saw this stat recently that absolutely blew my mind. That's just really opening my eyes to how quickly things are changing. On YouTube, which is the absolute juggernaut of online video, the latest stat I read is that every hour, 72 hours of content is uploaded to YouTube. YouTube is by far the #1 video destination on the web. They've got about 800 million viewers accessing content on Yahoo, on YouTube, combining the two, every month. So up until just a couple of months ago, well, I'll say it this way. So the #1 most watched video on YouTube is the music video for Gangnam Style. It surpassed 1 billion views just a couple of months ago. I think what's important is to think about a video that came before that. The #2 most watched video on YouTube is Justin Bieber's video for his song Baby. It took Baby 2.5 years to reach 800 million views, which is where it's like currently hovering around, where it more or less plateaued at 800 million is the #1 most watched video on YouTube. It took 2.5 years. When Gangnam Style came out, it took 2 months to surpass Bieber's video, the #1 all-time most watched video on YouTube, and surpass the 1 billion view mark. I think this is a trajectory, this is a hockey stick effect that we're going to start seeing much more from an audience perspective. We're seeing a huge change in how audiences are consuming content. Online viewership is growing, well, consumption's growing at a rate of 140% year over year. And it's not just the same audience viewing more content, but it's actually a growing audience. The audience right now is at about 3/4 of Americans who have access to the internet are viewing videos online. That number is projected to grow over the next 2 years to reach 9 out of 10 Americans who have access to the internet. The ad dollars are following this audience in a very meaningful and very relevant way. And again, this is a change that just started happening over the past year, and that's projected to just hockey stick, the same as Gangnam Style. So, latest stat that I read, this was from a report that came out this week that surveyed about 760 different media buyers across the entire media landscape. Of these media buyers, 3/4 of them said that they plan on increasing their digital video spend budgets this year. Of those 3/4 who plan on increasing their budgets, they plan on increasing their budgets by 50%. It's a huge increase. And to put that in perspective, over the last year, those budgets increased by only 20%. So we're seeing a more than doubling of increase for just budget to buy media in the digital video space over this upcoming year compared to last year. And where's that money coming from? About 40% of that is projected to come out of TV budget. About 40% of that is projected to come out of display advertising, and about 20% is incremental. So as far as the opportunity goes, as far as assessing, is the business quite there yet? I think in some ways it's there for big established talent. If you're a Ben Stiller, if you're a Jack Black, if you're an Ed Helms, these are the kind of folks who we're largely in business with. These are the kind of folks who we're seeing the biggest success with. However, there's a huge opportunity for emerging talent as well. If you look at YouTube, I mean, there's thousands of kids out there that are making millions and millions of dollars by posting YouTube videos. And yes, when you break down the CPM model at roughly a $5 CPM, you need 1 million views to generate $50,000. Nonetheless, first off, the premium content on YouTube is selling at a much higher rate than that. Premium content on Hulu is selling at a much higher rate than that. It's very close to what you're seeing at CPM rates for Modern Family these days. And as viewership increases, I think those dollars are just going to increase tremendously, and I think that's going to happen over the next year in a very meaningful way.